Whether we like it or not, we are in the middle of a food crisis, and this is not just because of Putin's war. It is a global problem resulting from the floods and droughts made from climate change, and even worse, the destruction of our soils. And this is all man-made, so we must be able to find the solution. But how? This is the first video in a 6-part series on rethinking our food system. If you miss any, you can go to www.gbiota.com/videos. Now, I think weird. I simply have a terrible memory, so I have to go right back to first principles and work everything out from scratch. Not such a major disadvantage as it turned out. You don't get bogged down with the conventional paradigms and can develop better and innovative solutions. This so-called disadvantage did lead me to setting up Australia's leading exporter of technical software at the birth of the computer revolution, and being recognised by the Institute of Engineers as one of Australia's top 100 innovators. I may now be ancient, being a great-grandfather with my new great-granddaughter Eloise, but that gives me an obligation to search for a solution to the food crisis, which is not going away by itself. We need a good old rethink of food, getting back to first principles. For example, since we learnt to use fire to cook, we have developed the biggest brain and smallest gut size of any animal our size. This affects what we need to eat. Over generations, our DNA has evolved to feed this big brain. It has become part of human nature. Another peculiarity of the human species is that we live some 20 years after we stop breeding. Now, nature does not develop by accident. There is always an underlying reason. Our big brains take a long time to mature, so our kids need a lot longer and more intense period of caring than other animals. In the period when we were evolving, living within a supportive tribe, the younger, fitter parents would spend their energies on securing food, while the less active grandparents would care for their grandkids. In a tribal setting, they would look after both their grandkids and other kids of the tribe, while the tribe would ensure that the older people were fed. Again, over thousands of generations, this became embedded in our DNA, a part of what we are as a species. Older people have evolved to look after kids. At the last election, childcare and aged care were key issues. It is a pity there was not wider understanding of how our evolutionary history has made us what we are. In our modern society, food is generally controlled by megacorporations based on market forces. This is very different to the way we evolved, where food was seen as a community asset. We still see this in remote rural communities, where the community would ensure that there was food sharing to ensure some equality in access to food. Solving the food crisis is not going to be solved by some magic new fertilizer or GMO. We have to dig deep to really understand the problems, and the solution is not just technical. We need to change the mechanics of growing and distributing food. In my next video, I want to talk more about how our evolutionary history with food has given us human characteristics which are causing us major problems in our modern technology and profit-based society. If you want to know how to solve the food crisis, then watch the video series on rethinking our food system. It is important for the future of our species, so please tell your friends about this series. If you miss any, you can go to www.gbiota.com/videos. Let me give you a taste of what is coming. This is a red cabbage grown in a typical way. As you can see, it is being attacked by insects, and the traditional approach would be to spray it with some toxic chemicals which would destroy the beneficial biota in the soil. These are G-biota boxes. The soil is full of beneficial biota and minerals, and no toxic chemicals are used. When we eat the plants, our gut biota is enhanced with both beneficial biology and minerals, which will ensure we are satisfied and not craving more and yet more food, which would end up with us overeating and being overweight and probably diabetic. But we don't buy the plants from a supermarket. Instead, we buy the box from a local grower full of growing plants which we could pick and eat.